Greetings, and more greetings, folks. And I mean that with exclamation points included. Welcome back to week 3, chapter 2, part 2. You know, it always amazes me, or perhaps amuses me, how older generations tend to sneer at any signs of perceived cockiness from someone's of a younger generation, right? That's who I'm speaking to right now, and you guys can probably relate. Shaking your head, yes, I get it. Of course, as a side note to that, it does not appear that millennials and those of Gen Z, who are highly sensitive to this, and do not take this indignance lying down. But when you look at the modern world, when you look at the modern world today, from the early 20th century, somewhere therein, to the present time, it'd be hard to argue. All right, it'd be hard to argue that the U.S. has not become the dominant player. Right, there's several ways you could say that. The dominant player, the prime mover of several things, right? Certainly after the Cold War, and probably not long before that. But it's so influential in world economics, world culture, and to some extent world politics. And I say all of that to say that when you stack up the existence of civilization on North America, let alone the United States, we are, and I like to say this a lot in these regards, we are the Johnny come lately. We really are on the world stage. And this has caused some to kind of hand wring, I guess, here in the West, here in the United States, to hand wring and wonder, oh my, what must these older civilizations think of us? And contrary to, I guess I'm thinking two things when I hear that. Contrary to popular belief, they do not hate us. They do not hate us. And but also, what may come also as a surprise is, I don't think they look at us. They're not looking at us as they say, a bag full of chips and all that, right? So probably somewhere in between. So this week we continue to look at this era of the first civilizations, first cities and civilizations, this era, if you will, of early civilization and development. So today, or this week, we're going to be looking at, today I'm going to be talking about it. This week you guys will be studying the Indus River Valley in modern day India, the Mohenjo-Daro area in Pakistan, the Yangtze and Yellow Rivers in China, the Aegean area between Persia and Greece, Anatolia, modern day Turkey, and the western frontier of Europe, home of many of our ancestors, right? And the Americas. And we talk about the Americas here. We're the area stretching from, modern day border of Mexico and Texas, right? The Rio Grande area down to the present day southern tip of South America, Argentina's present day territory of Argentina, southern tip of South America, and we're including, of course, with the Americas, the Caribbean in that as well. So, you have here these complex societies from around two great river basins. The early urbanization here, just bringing changes, including new technologies and new religions, like we saw last week. Long distance trade here, connecting the many of the Afro Eurasia societies And despite impressive developments and urbanization, here a little bit more than in part one, most people live in villages and in pastoral nomadic communities. So let's take a look at this week's objectives, and then shortly thereafter that we'll take a look at the lecture notes, right, and be on our way. So this chapter here, we want to trace and evaluate, and get my side screen up here. There we go. Trace and evaluate the trade connections stretching from Mesopotamia to the Indus River Valley societies. Compare early urbanization with the ways of life of small villages among the pastoralists. And we want to trace and evaluate the influence of the long distance connection across Afro-Eurasia during this period. Major heads up terms here, the Harappan people groups, Harappan society, initial people group to inhabit the Indus River Valley. As I had mentioned earlier, the Mohenjo-daro is an early city along the Indus River, today part of modern Pakistan. The Aegean, this is the Aegean Sea, located in between what would become later on ancient Greece and Persia, today modern day Iran. And then Anatolia, this is modern day Turkey. Modern day Turkey. Okay. So let's into it here. And here we go. The Indus River Valley, a parallel culture. Also in the second millennium, cities developed in the Indus River Valley, and their culture is called Harappan, and after the city of Harappa, which is located on the Ravi River. So here, villages first appeared around on the Baluchistan mountain foothills, and these had spread eastward. These had spread eastward to the Indus River, where the fertile soil supported an increase in wealth, trade, and the construction on public works, and hence fortified cities. And so you can turn to page 84 there, map 2.5, and check out some of those places that I just mentioned, and kind of get a visual geographic bearing on the scene here. Now the region benefited from predictable flooding, okay, coming from the Himalaya mountains to the north, right? You can see that on your map there. And what you would get there would be snow runoff, okay? And of course, this is much preferable to what we looked at last week, right? The torrential, the hard to control rivers of the Indus and the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, right? Drawing a blank there, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in Mesopotamia. So, it's preferable to that. It's preferable also to what you would get in the southern part of South Asia, southern India, today modern day India, along the Ganges River. You can see that there in your map as well. What you get there is a lot of, basically torrential monsoons, right? Torrential monsoons off the South Sea and the Indian River, and which would cause, a lot of problems there, with vegetation. Farmers could plant wheat and barley after the waters receded. And tools such as furrows were used as cultivation. So as in Egypt and in Mesopotamia, these food surpluses allowed other inhabitants to focus on different pursuits, right? Would say be time savers. And as we saw there too, right? Population expanded, as did cities such as Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, which I've mentioned a couple times. Each had about 35,000 inhabitants. Map there. So the Indus River Valley in the second millennium, the Harappan cities, right, and towns had similar layouts. And lost my, pardon me there. Let me see, get my screen share back up there, and lost my side panel there. Okay, there we go. Harappan cities and towns had similar layouts with a fortified citadel. Should have probably had citadel on my terms, right? Fortified citadel and residential area at its center, with a main street with covered drainage. Much of this constructed with durable bricks, and citadels probably served as hubs for political and ritual activity, but also could contain great baths, and as in Mohenjo-Daro, good houses. Meanwhile, the houses could have private bathrooms, showers and toilets, and they would drain into these municipal sewers. Basic structures of these kind of remains intact today. And I've been mentioning Mohenjo-Daro several times now on page 86. You can see a photograph of some of the ruins of that. The Indus River Valley, right? Let's take a look at that. Indus River Valley in the second millennium. And I'll take a look at city life. We know they did, however, engage in extensive long distance trading, right? Both along the Indus River and some of your Iranian plateau as well. However, because so much of these settlements remain buried today due to repeated flooding, much less is known about Indus people's language, including records that might tell about its political history. There is actually a 400 symbol script, but they are limited resources to study the language. Now, with the long distance trade, what we do know is they traded products such as copper, ivory, and pottery in exchange for gold, silver, gemstones, and textiles, and to facilitate this trade. They had towns at strategic sites such as Lothal on the Gulf of Combat, and you can see map 2.5. You could see Lothal in that along that Gulf. There they could have access to the sea, and as a result, certain raw materials. So because their trade depended on stones, they often built these fortified settlements near such resources, such as the red gemstone and carnelian and copper mines. Now, with their written script, with their written script, they also used a system of weights and measures to manage the complex trade system. And this pattern of settlement and trade, I think it's pretty obvious. It suggests a kind of a centralized and structured Harappan state. Here's a slide that goes along with those points. I want to start to head east a little bit here, northeast into what would be modern day China, and look at the Yellow and Yangtze River basins in at that time East Asia. In China specifically, settlement areas were concentrated along the Yellow River in the north and the Yangtze River to the south. And you can see your map, page 2689. Now we're going to camp out on that map for a little bit here. In contrast to other major riverine cultures, okay, China developed more slowly a system of hydraulic works, big cities, and the priestly and bureaucratic classes that managed them with the help of writing. Some of the reasons for this include some of the reasons for the delay included the lack of domesticated plants and animals, as we've seen in some of the other societies. Geographic barriers that impeded migration, and hence, without the migration, the spread of ideas. Now, distinct regional cultures emerged, though, in this space. This was never a fully isolated region, and instead, both the ocean, and you got your maps there, both the ocean and the Mongolian steppe on your map, up in the top left-hand corner of that map, the Mongolian steppe allowed outsiders to come in to introduce new technologies and goods in this long period. And such outside nomads coming down from the steppe settled along the rivers. Turn to page 84. I want to get this key here. I want to turn your attention to that. It's a different type of key on page 89. I want you to take a look and focus on some of these cultures here. Find the key for the Yangshao culture, the Langshan culture. Okay, we're going to be focusing on X-raying on those cultures here, specifically within China. But I wanted you to get the keys straight, the color-coded keys on where to follow along here as I trace these cultures. The Yangshao culture was one of the first of these cultures to develop, succeeded by the Longshan. And then for the next millennium, the Longshan, the Longshan culture, get these tongue-tied with these cultures. That culture there showed the beginnings of urban life on the Central Plains, as you can see on your maps there. And of course, there it has a broad cultural influence, as well as migration to the east, hence the coast. Now, among its remains, we can detect defensive walls, wells, and cemeteries outside of the villages, with tombs housing objects such as pottery, wooden instruments, and painted murals. Jade axes were used by shamans in rituals, reflecting the advanced technology to even make them, okay? And they suggest, along with mass graves and defensive walls, the threat of organized violence in this period. And there's further evidence too, further evidence of short-lived political organizations, referred to as the era of 10,000 states. Over on pages 90 and 91, you can, in your textbooks, you can see, some of the ceramics. Here's the map they alerted you to. From Yangshao to Langshan culture, the Liangshu culture, right? Liangshu culture. Liangshu, that particular culture had sophisticated agriculturalists who grew rice and fruits along the Qiantang River and used tools and domesticated animals. The wooden tools suggest skill with watercraft and fishing, and the black pottery, which I just showed you, suggests the production of artistic and religious objects. And then you have your animal motifs on these objects, and they implied a kind of a shared cosmology, if you will, and rituals among the elite. So again, you can see the bowl and the beaker on pages 90 and 91. From Yangshao to Longshan culture, droughts and then recovery. Extended droughts, limited development in the first millennium. Chinese cultures recovered and developed these elaborate agrarian systems along the Yellow and Yangtze rivers, resembling those that of other major riverine cultures. And like those other cultures, it also had an extensive trade network, right? Keep seeing that with other regions, and a highly stratified social hierarchy within. And this centralized polity was eventually run by a powerful monarch. In contrast, though, however, to other regions, this leadership depended on the idealization of the past and a tradition of sage kings who were meant to be emulated. Lastly, life outside of the river basins. This was just part of a human social organization in this period, as the vast majority of people did not live in complex cities. Instead, they were hunter-gatherers, nomads, or residents of small agricultural villages. So you have in regions like the Aegean, Anatolia, Europe, and parts of China, others lived in small towns without considerable growth. In Europe and Anatolia, modern day Turkey, right? In particular, these communities were run by military men engaging in conquest rather than rulers backed by priests and scribes. Meanwhile, in the Americas and sub-Saharan Africa, you had smaller agriculturally based societies that remained the norm, which had more egalitarian social organizations than in the river-based communities. Okay. You got your graphic organizers. We will do a little recap there. And while you're getting that out, let me just point out page 94, map 27. I forgot to add that in there. That gives you a map of the settlements outside of the river basins, okay? Okay, as I said I was going to do last week, I added on to last week's graphic organizers. Now we have a complete informational graphic organizer here of the entire chapter. Today we looked at, as I say here, 3 more river basins, right, from last week: the Indus River Valley, the Harappan culture, the predictable floods from the Himalayas, cities built around citadels and who had long distance trade. And then you had the Yellow and Yangtze rivers, which would be modern day China. They developed a little more slowly, system of hydraulic works, the Yangshao and Longshan cultures, major cultures within and around those river valleys. So life outside of river basins, we have the Aegean area, you know, in between the Aegean Sea area, Greece, which had become ancient Greece, Asia Minor, we come over on the east side of that Aegean Sea. You can see on your map there, becomes modern day Iran sometime thereafter. Of course, Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the Americas. Okay, there you have that. Let's see what's up ahead. There we go. Yes. You have as you read, should be as you read, you'll be looking at pages 82 to 97, which I kind of covered with the lecture. For those of you who learn independently, you know, via reading. And I would suggest for those of you who a couple of you guys have contacted me and thanked me for the lectures. That really means a lot to me. This is why I do it, right? It's helping you auditory folks learn. I'm just delighted. I'll do this every time if I know that. But probably help you too solidify the material if you read it, right? Video this week, monumental architecture. You have your review quiz, and some of you, I'm not sure if you realize this or not. I know I have mentioned it in the tentative schedule section of my syllabus, but the review quizzes, I'm not grading them, but they are on there. So you can, you know, it will help you prepare for the tests, right? We have 3 tests, not including the final, right? We have 3 tests. And then I left that comparing River Valley chart up that will help you, you know, understand, you know, such things, the comparisons and contrasts of these river valleys. That is on the chapter 2, part 2 material on the course page. Friday, of course, the initial posts are due. Sunday, the response posts are due. Again, the later those initial posts are in, the sliding scale, right? There are points deducted after Friday night. If you haven't been aware of that, you need to look again at the discussion rubric, right? Monday, we will begin chapter 3, nomads, territorial states and micro societies. And I'm thinking now about October 11th. I think I'm going to back this up. As I see October 11th, you guys are on fall break. So I am going to change that right now on the fly. And hopefully I remember to get that in the announcements for those who are not watching this lecture, right? And if those of you guys are watching this lecture want to remind me to do that, I will be eternally grateful, all right? Test 1 is coming up on October. We'll make that October 13th. And in my classrooms, my live classrooms, I play a little Bob Ross. I have my Las Vegas signs and motel signs that serve as, you know, my billboard. And then outside of my little town there, up on the hill, if there's something in the distance that's important, I'll have a little billboard up there. And I think we're far enough away where it doesn't have to be down in the town, right? Down in the town of the signs. I think it's still far enough away, but I think it warrants some mention here, right? Test 1. So, and there you have that. So it's my screen there. Okay, there we go. Having all kinds of problems with understanding the technology today. So there you have it. If you have questions, comments, concerns, you know, you can get a hold of me during the week. If you need more conversation, let me know and we'll set up a time to meet Wednesday night. Again, remember, I have several live classes during the week. So I'm kind of on the road a lot and really don't get to the online Mount Aloysius stuff until evening anyway for, you know, responses. But I am checking during the day and I'm not above getting to you guys earlier in the day than later. So there you have it. All right, we'll see you guys. I'll talk to you guys next week. And you guys have just a tremendous week and do well. Bye-bye.